someone at another company recently challenged me. We were talking about this actually, and he was like, man, like, honestly, any of the times in my life where I didn't feel that, I was in like the worst place, like in like the most safe, wasn't challenging myself. Like you feel that because you're like usually pushing yourself. So if you're like feeling that like insecurity, it's probably because you're like pushing the envelope for your own skills or your own like career, whatever. And I was like, he said that and I was like, man, that helps me a lot. So I've been just remembering that. And if I'm feeling that lately and just like, sometimes it's like maybe you need to change something. Like maybe something is fully out of your wheelhouse and it's like, ugh, but that'll usually show itself to be pretty clear. Otherwise, I'm like, dude, if you feel that, it's probably because you're right where you're supposed to be and you're feeling uncomfortable because you're not letting yourself settle for, being in like a safe place.
Hello, beautiful creative people, and welcome to the Keep Creating podcast presented by Soundstripe, the podcast created by creators for creators. Every episode, we seek out successful creatives who dedicate their lives to pursuing a creative trade or career. We ask them some questions and soak in all the truth their stories seep. Also, we can package it up and provide more creatives like you the inspiration, education, and tools to grow in your own unique pursuit to keep creating. I'm Joel Porter, and I'm excited for the opportunity to host this show and dialogue with our guests about what creativity looks like in their lives. So, without any more delay, thanks so much for listening, and let's get started. Prolific American author and Pulitzer Prize winner John Steinbeck was once quoted saying, "I am not a writer. I've been fooling myself and other people." You see, emotions of self-doubt and imposter syndrome aren't reserved solely for amateurs or inexperienced creatives. Even the most successful creatives struggle with thoughts of inadequacy. What stands out about these individuals, however, is the bravery and courage they have to fight against self-doubt and continue pursuing their calling to their own creative work. And the simple truth is, we can too. We can use these feelings of inadequacy to serve us instead of paralyze us. They can be the map or the indicator, the street signs, the pathway that allows us to see clearly what's important to us, to speak the truth living inside of us, and to give the world the beauty we hold within. These emotions can't keep us from arriving because we never arrive. There's always something else to create or say or write or paint or achieve. But they can keep us from what's next. My friends, don't let this happen. Fake it like Steinbeck and keep taking steps. My guest today is Nick de Partee. Nick has been involved in the creative industry for the last 15 years as a designer, a touring guitarist for the band Kutless, a songwriter, and an entrepreneur. He's the founder of the design company Equal7 Creative, specializing in identity, branding, visual, apparel, and packaging design. He's also a co-founder of the creative company AVVAY, which is a marketplace that enables people to discover and book locations for their creative projects and events. As a co-founder, his focus is typically on growth, sales, and big-picture creative direction. But he is so caring and passionate about every area of creativity in his life, and is an advocate for creative communities of all kinds. And to top it off, he's a great hang and conversationalist. So now, sit back, relax, and enjoy our conversation.
Hey,
Nick.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for being here. No, we're so happy to have you. So we tried this once. We got interrupted by somebody painting on the other side of the studio. Let's try it again. I'm going to start with the easiest / hardest question that we have. Who is Nick?
Well, I did mention on the first pass, but I was homeschooled K through 12, which I never know if that's like interesting or just... Well,
I think it's interesting.
That's kind of weird.
You're the first guest that has at least admitted that.
It's a fun fact. We'll call it a fun fact. But that being said, I mean, I kind of would just call myself an extroverted introvert. I think by default I'm an introvert. If you ask me which one I am, but I think over the years, like I've realized, kind of like that the more that I'm with people, I'm like, I love people. Like my wife is like total extrovert, is fueled by like has to be with people. If she's not, she like dies a little inside,
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah.
And I'm kind of like, and I'm like totally, if I'm with people too long or like too many people, I like need to get away, and like my recharging is kind of having alone time, you know, but it's definitely one of those things where like this is ideal for me. Like, let me hang out with someone, love talking, like, especially like creative things. I mean, this is like ideal scenario. So I'm happy to be doing this. But yeah, I think it's one of those things where I have learned that, like, man, I love human interaction and I love people, but I just have to balance it with a little recharge time.
Yeah. So how did you go about, I think this is a really important thing, especially when, like, we'll get into creativity a little bit more, but self-awareness is always a really important thing for people just in general, but especially creatives. Like, how long did it take you to figure out? Because you've been involved in some pretty social things. So when did you start to figure out, hey, I need to get away?
Yeah. Well, no, that's a great question, because I think what's funny is like I was like, so as a kid, like so shy. Like I wouldn't even like hug like uncles and aunts, and like terrified of people.
Really?
Like, which I guess is more the stereotypical like homeschooler. But that's not to knock anybody that's homeschool. I'm going to see how many times I can bring that up, apparently. But no, I think like music actually helped me like totally break out of being shy. Like I joined a band, like started a band when I was in like junior high, like early high school. And our singer was like really bad. And I wasn't like a great singer, but it was kind of like, oh, you should just sing. And so I'm like, okay. And I'm like singing for like this band, you know, like, but I was all of a sudden I felt like, oh, I can be like extroverted to some level, or I can, you know, like be in front of people, and it's not the worst thing in the world. But then like, so that I played music for a number of years and ended up touring and doing stuff in music. And that was definitely a great avenue for me. But I think it was through the later years, like into my 20s, touring in bands, where I really started, like you asked, like being very aware of like, oh my gosh, like I get really burnt out. Like I need to go like chill for a minute, because I'm going to snap. Like, you know, I think so just being pushed to like be around a lot of people all the time, because it was my job at that point, is when it really like started to hit me that I needed to find that balance.
Yeah. So before that, were you looking around at other people that were in the same situation as you and being like, how do they do it?
Totally. Yeah. Because I knew so many like ultra extroverts and like very like people focused people, you know, that could just like go and go into like, you know, a meet and greet or whatever it was, and just be like, hey, and like just be on and go for it, you know, and you're like, wow, like that seems like really hard. Like, why am I having a hard time with this? You know, and then just, you know, the more you learn about yourself, obviously,
so
learn how to balance it.
Yeah. And since we're talking about self-awareness, is there any other things? I guess we're starting this right off the bat.
We're just going for
this. Are there any other like big self-awareness, whether they're personality tests or or, you know, anything that you've done research-wise to learn more about yourself that has like highly impacted the way that you not only view yourself, but the way that you create?
Yeah, I think, I mean, as far as the first half of the question, I mean, yeah, I've definitely, like, I feel like everyone else in the last like couple of years gotten into the Enneagram, which could probably be its own entire conversation at this point. But I am a 9 on the Enneagram, like total, you know, peacemaker, all the faults that come with it of like, you know, slothfulness and like this, all the things, you know, good and bad. But I fully 100%, I'm like, yeah, that's me. Like that resonated with me. I've done Myers-Briggs and all the different things, but that was just like, oh my gosh. Like, I think because of like, wow, I can see that applying it, you know, in business and like in my relationship with my wife. And like, I just like nailed it. Like, I'm like, okay. So as far as applying like some of those like things of being really aware of like, oh, that's why I do battle conflict, you know, like I have a hard time, you know, dealing with like direct conflict. But if there is conflict, I tend to be the peacekeeper, you know, like, and try to like mediate and just like, let's find, you know, let's find the like common ground. And like, it's always like, so I guess creatively, I've seen that as I look back at all my time, especially in like bands, like I was always that guy. Like if there was like a band fight, it's like, I saw myself kind of chilling things out. And in like, as I got into like songwriting, you know, because I worked with a publisher here in town for a number of years, was a songwriter. And so like, I think through that, I definitely saw as a strength of like kind of being that mediator. It was very good. And like writing sessions, and like, or even like with working on records with our producers, and like, it's like, oh man, I can help, like, oh, that's a great idea. Oh, that's cool too. Like, what if we kind of, and like would kind of, I think, maneuver that
Mhm.
in a creative setting where I was like, oh, this is actually helpful. I think, like, I hope it was, like,
Yeah.
it felt like it. And so as I look back now, I'm like, I see all these, like, all of us, you see kind of all the like little signs of like, oh, that's what that was. And
Yeah.
now I'm aware of it more. So trying to like now turn the corner and apply that, I guess, to everything I have going on now. But
So with that, are you focusing more on the strengths of your personality, or are you focusing on trying to be aware of when some of those weaknesses pop in?
I think it's a little bit of both. Like, I mean, definitely the strengths are the easiest to like, oh, cool. Like I'm good at that. Like, you want to kind of that. But like what I need to, and I'm definitely realizing, is like seeing the weaknesses of, like avoiding conflict and trying to just be more assertive, not just to be assertive, but just to like, oh man, this is something that I'm naturally weak in. And I need to like be able to do that for any number of reasons. I mean, creatively, yeah, but like just in life, like just to be able to not be the guy that shies away from something just because it might be difficult. That's not
Hmm.
who I want to be.
Right.
So, and that's not who I want my boys to be when they grow up. So, like, I'm definitely aware of that, and that's probably the main thing I'm really wanting to be conscious of.
Mhm.
So,
So you mentioned that, I know that you've been a part of a lot of different creative endeavors, but you mentioned that early on, one of the first creative things that you were a part of was a band.
yeah. Yeah.
Can you give us a little synopsis of your creative journey and how you got into things?
Yeah, it's kind of it's kind of all over the place, but yeah, in a snapshot, I mean, grew up Southern California, definitely was surrounded by a ton of music, ton of art. My dad was a musician, I got into like graphic design really early in like junior high. Played sports. I played a ton of baseball growing up. I thought I wanted to be a pro baseball player, like until I was like in high school. And got so burned out, and my band was going, and I was like, I think I want to do music, and just totally like turned that corner, like screw baseball, like I'm going to be a rock star, like you just like, I had no idea really what I wanted to do, but I just was like really loving something different.
Yeah.
And I felt like it let me like kind of get out of my shell a little bit. So it was like this whole new world for me. So music was definitely that entry point into what I would say is, my whole creative journey. But then, yeah, like through like design, like that was always like a big part of my like creative side too. So I was always like in bands playing, like, but then like designing merch and like kind of like exploring like Photoshop and, getting into that. And by the end of high school, I was kind of like, didn't want to do college or like normal. I didn't really know what I wanted to do. I wanted to continue playing music. So I was still playing and ended up going and getting like my associate's degree in design at like a local like technology college, like a DeVry type thing, or whatever. Like, so it was fun though, like, cause I kind of was doing that. I ended up getting an internship at a record label and did some design there and ended up kind of making a connection with a band called Kutless. And I was friends with a couple of their guys, and they're like, hey, we need a guitar tech. Like, do you want to come tech? And I'm like, I have no idea what a guitar tech is, but sure. Like, I was kind of like fried on my job. So ended up going out on tour with them. And like a year later, ended up like their guitarist was quitting the band, and I already knew the songs. So they're like, well, we fill in, and like we have this run of shows in Europe, and you already know the songs. Like, can you come? And so like literally I'm like, sure. Like, and this is how I feel like most of like my life has been. So anytime someone asks me anything along the lines of what was your path, and I'm like, I feel like I kind of just kept going and like saying yes to a lot of things.
That's valuable though.
So
That's good,
yeah, I think, looking back, I'm like, I'm just really glad I said yes as many times as I did, because it was definitely like weird leaps. So I ended up going, and they're like, well, just do the Europe trip and we'll just kind of see how it goes. And then ended up being basically like an 8-year stint of playing guitar, touring with them, did songwriting. And through that, like, then this would be like a pivotal thing, I think, in my long-term creative career, if you will. Like, that's what brought me to Nashville for the first time. Like the very first show I ever went out and teched for, like we ended up hanging out in Nashville for the whole weekend. And I like kind of fell in love with the city, and had no idea at the time that it would become such a like staple, like cornerstone of my life, like just this, like creating and doing things in the city. So yeah, so I ended up touring with them forever, and through that, like just made a ton of a longtime friend, John Howard, who's the CEO of the company I'm a founder with now, AVVAY. So like met him through music in Nashville, and like we were roommates, and like got into songwriting and ended up getting my like first songwriting like publishing deal like in Nashville through all these channels. Like so it's just that whole thing where you're like, man, like I'm glad I said yes to guitar teching, like because it kind of turned into this really like beautiful picture of like all these weird turns, and brought me to Nashville and ended up moving back. My wife is from Portland, so we've been out in Portland the last 6 years, and through that, like ended up quitting the band and starting my design business. I kind of moved back into graphic design after all the years and started a freelance design company out there. Still do a little bit out on the side today, but yeah, AVVAY, our current thing, kind of got started during that season, and it was like nights and weekends, and slowly turned into what a company now. We have 8 or 9 employees, and yeah, it brought me back to Nashville this last February, like because AVVAY was doing enough to where I needed to be here, and it's just been this weird full circle coming back to Nashville now and being like, oh my gosh, like. And we used to tour with Micah, like Soundstripe, like, so like we hung out like recently at a get together. I'm like, this is weird. Like we shouldn't be allowed to be like running companies. Like we were touring guitar players. Like how are we all hanging out with businesses now? So it's just been fun.
Yeah. In the early stages of your creative journey, what were a couple things that you learned about yourself, or like I know being a guitar tech was like a pivotal choice.
Yeah.
But were there ever any other like major forks in the road that you had to make a decision that like greatly impacted what you were doing creatively? Yeah,
great question. Because I think these are definitely the things you like don't realize are pivotal until like years later.
Yeah.
Which is definitely, the decision to, do the teching was definitely a weird decision that turned into a really cool thing. And then actually like on the flip side of that, I think leaving the band 8 years later was a super difficult choice, because it was definitely what I loved doing. I loved playing, but like it kind of got to a point where it just, for a million different reasons, it was just like, man, like we were like 3 months away from having our first kid, which is, by the way, a great time to quit your job. If anyone's wondering, definitely quit as close to having the baby as possible. But it was just, a bunch of different reasons. It was just like, man, like I was super tired, and I knew that it was on my heart like for like a year. I was just like, man, I don't think I'm supposed to be here anymore. And you just kind of feel, I don't know if this was the case for me a few different times in life, but you just kind of feel those seasons shifting, and you can't even pinpoint why. And it's just kind of that like, oh, I just don't think this is right anymore. So anyway, quit the band. And because of that, it kind of threw me into this like, oh, I should make money. Like I do have a kid on the way. So like it kind of, I think, propelled me into like, all I know is design other than music. So like, I'm like, well, I have a couple clients, and it ended up being a bunch of relationships from touring, like turned into my early clients. And a lot of my design stuff was all just back into the entertainment industry, and a lot of like album packaging and logos and branding stuff. So it was just that cool thing, you're forced into like, I just know I need to make this step. And so that was, to answer your question, that was like probably the other biggest like pivotal moment creatively, of just like taking that leap back out of the band and trying to figure out like what to do.
Yeah.
Like just kind of falling back on creativity and hoping you can like throw something together. And it worked out, but again, I feel like I could have probably planned it better if I went back and did it all over again, but
sure, but that probably wouldn't have happened like that without the pressure.
Totally. Yes.
There probably would have been a long season of mourning.
Yeah.
Or,
or overthinking
the
planning. I think that's, I'm often
right
guilty of that.
Regarding your creative process, like what do you love about creativity and like the careers that you have been in? What are the things that you love about it, and what are the things that frustrate you? And in those times of frustration, how do you keep going? What continues to motivate you?
Good questions, man. Gosh, drilling at the heart of it all.
We're real here.
Man,
we don't tiptoe.
I love this. Yeah, I think, the things I love about creativity in general is definitely like the collaborative element, of like being in bands and songwriting and all that. Like, I was always a fan of like, man, even if I was like the best songwriter in the world, which I'm definitely not, but like, even if like you're like the man, like there's still like can only write what you write, and getting into like a room with someone else who is either never written a song in their life or they're equally like as amazing, whatever, just getting like two people together, like that's something that can only be created like with those people, like, and it's so seeing something like creativity in general, seeing new things come to life is like definitely like the thrill of, I guess, creating in general. Like seeing something that's never been done or like never had your spin on it, being able to create something fresh. But I think collaborating with someone and creating something that only the two of you or the three of you, however, whatever the group is, like working with teams, like, and that's what I love, about startups too. Like everything, it's just like that collaborative thing, like that can only be created with those minds, and you can never do it by yourself. I think that part is like extra special. So yeah.
This is actually something I don't think we've talked about in the podcast yet.
Cool,
and this is really interesting.
Yeah.
A new face or a new aspect of creativity is collaboration.
Definitely.
And was that something that you had to learn? Is how to, because I mean, the 9 Enneagram, to go back to it, is like probably the perfect collaborator. Just the peacemaker, willing to make whatever work, that kind of thing. But did you feel like at the beginning, say with songwriting, for instance, was that something that you did not find inherently natural?
Yeah.
What were the steps that you took? Was it just practice? Was it, like, how did you learn how to collaborate? Because, as creatives, we've got egos.
Oh, dude. Yeah. Which is
and we want our name on everything.
Yep. And we don't want to admit that we have any challenges, of course.
Of course.
Because we don't. But no, I think you definitely, like, I do feel like I naturally, like, enjoy, that's probably the 9-ness. Like, I do enjoy that naturally, I guess, like, working together, and I can do that well. But I feel like you have to, like, definitely, songwriting specifically was like, you got to get like thick skin, right? Like to be able to like, hey, what about this? Like, no, like sing something, and they're like, no, I don't really like that. It's like, you have to be able to like take that. They're not like attacking you. It's not like this personal, like, oh, you suck. Like, it's like, we're making something that doesn't feel right to me. And you have to be able to say that to someone and also be able to receive those things. Like, so that was like, I feel like those first couple of times I ever wrote with anyone else is like, they hate me. Like,
I'm not
they
good at
totally think I suck. Like, I'm the worst. I never want to write again. So I think that's true probably in most collaborative settings, like being able to receive criticism in a healthy way is super crucial. And if you can do that, then it's like, man, you're going to be a better person. Even if someone's wrong, it's like, man, that's interesting. Like, I wouldn't have thought of that. I'm going to consider that. And if it makes sense to change what I'm doing based on that, cool. If not, still need to be able to like receive it, So that part it still takes practice. But I think songwriting helped that. And now in business and in other parts of creativity, it's definitely like been a benefit to have learned that early on.
Do you have a daily routine?
I should. I don't. Not enough. Like I feel like organization is like something I'm like having to force myself into these days, and I see the value of it. Like probably because of the work I do now, but like it's not a natural thing for me. Like I'm like super. My wife would attest to this because it drives her nuts. Like on the weekends, she's like very like opposite. Like she's organized. She's like so organized and detailed, and it's like this beautiful thing. Like that she has such a skill, and I'm kind of like, yeah, let's just go for it. Like let's just see, like get some coffee. I'll see how the weekend, like whatever. Like let's just roll. And she's like that stresses her out. Like because she's just like, well, no, we need to like. I'm fine to roll with it, but we need to have some. Some sort of structure. And so I've been learning that from her, and just from like the requirements of my job now is like I have to be organized. So I'm slowly, my routine is definitely start with coffee in the morning. That's about as far as I get most of the time. I'm like, and then everything just like chaos mode.
Whatever fire we need to put out.
Dude, yes. Which is, I guess, part of the nature of things. But to answer your question, I don't have a good routine, but I'm working on it.
Well, okay, then let's evolve that question then. Because I'm laughing because I relate. I go through seasons. I go through seasons of rigidity.
Yep.
And like, I'm going to do this. And that's because that is something that I have learned from some very successful people.
Yeah.
That it's like, hey, the only reason I got here, the only reason, like, I'm not more talented.
Totally.
I just showed up.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
But I completely understand
dude,
where you're coming from, because there are days that I'll come and I'll have my morning coffee, I'll sit down, I'll just be like, okay, bring it. It's like,
let's just get into some stuff.
Let's do something. But I think that there is an important thing to unpack there as well, that it's not like, that is not being substituted like that. After coffee, all that time is not laziness. It's it's not at all. Not working.
Yeah.
And it's not showing up. It's just being very open to what are the pressing matters. And those are what I need to do.
Great point. Yeah.
So,
no, that's true.
I do want to evolve this question though. So are there any practices or habits or tools then that you've discovered that have significantly impacted your efficiency at work or your like level of mastery at your craft?
Yeah, I mean, I wish I had like cool, like slick tools that I've implemented, and it's like literally to-do lists and like staying on top of, I use like Asana, and like have things that I actually am like, oh, I need to remember that, write it down. Like it's really like foundational for me where I'm at, but it's like also like game changing because I'm like, I've been such a disorganized person throughout a lot of my life that being like, like at the end of the day, I'm going to like write down kind of some things I did that day to make sure I remember. Like, I had a business coach for a while and he's like, write down like things you accomplished. And like, that's helpful just mental health wise to be like, I did good things today. Mm-hmm. But then also like, cool, like what needs to be tackled tomorrow? And then the next morning, as I'm drinking my coffee, like then I have a gauge. Like, it's really like those basic things that I think, and maybe this is common, like those are the easy things to overlook. And maybe you think you need way more of like a system or a complex, but it's like, man, checklists, staying like communicating with the people you need to, like, whether it's my family or my, business partners, just like continuing to like communicate and make sure that you know what you're doing and that everyone around you that needs to know what the plan is, that they're included, like really foundational, mm-hmm. but like, they're so simple, but those, like, I've overlooked them for so long that I think just like implementing really basic things like that have like really helped me.
And how does that affect your creativity?
I think I do, at least. I wouldn't say we for everybody, but for me, it's like thinking of structure makes me feel like I can't create, right? That's like the initial, like, I don't like put walls around me. Like, let me just do my thing. But I think it's the opposite. Like, I feel like the more that I like harness my day and have like, man, like a clear picture of what's going on, what needs to be done, and where are the windows where I can like kind of have those moments of just like, man, let me just like work on something and like create. Like, it's actually empowering. And that's what's really blown my mind in general, like with this last season of just really having to start thinking more this way. Is I'm like, actually, it's kind of like budgeting. Like, if you are just out spending money, whatever, like it feels good. Like, cool, I got $100. Like, I can go spend like 70-ish, 80 on whatever, whatever that was a terrible budget right there, but don't do that. But like the idea of like knowing instead, like where every dollar, every penny is going. And then you really have like power to like, you have enough for coffee, you have enough, for the bills. And like, so it's like that for time for me, I think is what I'm realizing. I'm like, man, I feel really like I can like take on 10 times more because now I know where every ounce of my energy is going. So that's been like, I think, eye-opening for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you ever worked in these moments, especially in this new season? Have you worked with mentors? Have you like sought out advice? And I guess, how do you go about finding them?
Yeah, good question. I mean, I have, yes. I have a business coach back in Portland who I was so bummed. We still connect, on the phone and stuff, but like I was meeting with him usually at least once a month for like a 3-hour session of just like dumping everything, like here's everything that's going on. And he was business coach, quote unquote, but he was like such a great just like life / entrepreneurial, like kind of just sensei. really, like just someone that like gets the pain, has been through it, and also has a lot of great like just wisdom from a family and personal level all the way through. Here's how you should attack your business.
Mm-hmm.
So he was a huge help, and he's someone I still lean on, if I'm like overloaded or just hitting a wall with something, he's like a phone call away, and that's been crucial. As far as finding new mentors, I mean, honestly, it's like usually just asking around, like, hey, like asking people in my like friend circle or like my network, and just be like, man, like I need help with this. Like, do you know anyone? Like, it's just really natural. I'm sure there's tools out there, I would imagine, for finding mentors.
So when do you say would be a good time to start looking for a mentor? Like when is it the right time? Because there's a certain amount of action that needs to happen before. And what you just said about, hey, I need help with this, do you know anybody, was kind of an answer to this question. Like having a problem that needs to be fixed and not necessarily knowing how. But when in your career did you start looking for a mentor?
Mine kind of got started when it was in one of those pivotal moments when I left the band, was starting my design thing. It was like, I mean, I know kind of what I'm doing, but I don't really know what I'm doing as far as like, do I need to have like a business plan or, like, again, foundational things that as a creative, I was just like wanting to get into the work and like, man, but sensing that like, there's probably a little more structure I need in this season, and having that kind of, I think, internal feeling. And it was just kind of asking around, and like, I knew of this guy that, had helped some friends, and it was just like, man, I need someone. I would at least just start asking someone something, and you just start down the path. But yeah, I think that was definitely the case for me.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think being ahead of the game, if at all possible, I think like counselors / mentors, whatever it is, I think they're great to have all the time. If you're lucky enough. Yeah. Like, don't wait till you're in like an emergency of any kind, like I think if you can get one or multiple people around you that are ahead of you and where you want to be, like maybe it's career wise, like, oh man, I really admire that person. Like, I wonder if I could get coffee with them, It could be that simple. But just getting with people that either inspire you or have wisdom because they've gone ahead of you on whatever level you feel like you're wanting to grow in. I think it's just smart to get those people around you.
Hey friends, it's time to give a shout out to our artist of the week, Shane Becker, for writing the song Stuck Inside, which is the situationally appropriate track featured on today's episode. Sit with me for a second and listen to a little more of this song. Well, if you're looking for music like this to use in your own creative project, I've got some good news. You can license Stuck Inside or check out some other great options by simply heading to soundstripe.com/keepcreating. There you'll find a custom playlist of all the songs we use on the show. If you like that playlist, make sure to check out some of the other curated playlists featured on our app. I'm positive you'll find something you love. All right, let's hear more from Nick. Looking back at your career now, we're gonna dive back.
Okay.
Actually, we're gonna take a microscope. Let's take a microscope to Nick's creative career and your journey from being homeschooled to where you are today.
Thanks for bringing that back.
Yeah. Hey, you were the one who wanted to count them. What would you tell a younger version of yourself not to do or to do? Like, what's some advice that you would give 10-year-old Nick?
10-year-old Nick was crazy. So, no.
Okay, you have to explain now.
As crazy as a 10-year-old homeschool kid is, am I right? No, I don't know, man. I mean, it's so hard because, like I said earlier, I think a lot of what I'm like when I like stand where I am now and like look back at that kid, it's like I wanted to go back and tell him, how to do things better. Obviously, like we all do. Like we all have that feeling, man. Like we were just talking before we got started. Like there's so much time I look back on like tour, like I had so much downtime. Why didn't I like maximize that time? Because that's how my headspace is now. I'm like trying to maximize and like find work-life balance always. And so like I would want to like go back and tell myself that over the years. But at the same time, like, and it might be kind of cliche, but it's kind of like all the like those mistakes and all the like weird leaps and like failures and all the good things, like it all like worked together. Like it's still like, and I don't know, maybe there was, if I could fix it, I would have been at like a quote unquote better place now. But I'm like, man, I love where I am. Like, and I'm happy, I'm excited for the future wherever I go. Like things could change tomorrow. And like at this point in life, I just know that it all like is truly for a reason. And like it's all, yeah, for a purpose. Like all the failures turned into like learning a ton of valuable stuff for the next season. And like every season I got into, I learned a little bit more of, I think like it's less precious than I think it was. So maybe that would probably be the one thing I would tell myself. Like it's not like when I finally got and like was touring in a band, it was like, cool, this is what I've always wanted. And then I played my first show and I remember standing outside the venue and being kind of like bummed. Like you're like, but now what? Like there's just like, nothing's like as precious or as like, you never arrive, I guess. Like it's just this continual, like you keep going, you know? And I think that's what I would just let myself know. It's like, man, don't take it too seriously and don't be too stressed. Like almost like it's going to fail in a few years anyway. And then you're going to do something else. So like, keep going. Like, so, cause I think all the failures and stuff are, as cliche as it is, it's like all part of the plan, you know?
Yeah.
So.
I'm never disappointed with people's answer, especially to that question, because there are some people who have very, very exact. Yeah, this is what I would do, and you can tell it's kind of like weighing on them. And then they're like,
probably very organized people that have those thoughts. Telling you,
but it's a really beautiful. What you just said is a really beautiful way to look at life and to look at your journey, because you're looking at it as a collective, but you're also not allowing yourself to look back and be like, oh man, that really sucked. You know? And of course there are moments of reflection.
Totally. There have to be. Yeah.
But to continue looking forward. And I mean, that right there is advice that I would give my younger self is, no, just keep looking forward.
Yeah, totally. I don't know. It's like we can get so dark, I feel like, when we look back too much. It's like, we're here. Like, life is really great.
Right.
Like, or it sucks, you know.
And you can't change it.
Yeah. Like, what can you actually do other than get around good people and keep going, you know? And yeah, that's awesome, man. Appreciate that.
Well, of course, man. Came out of your mouth.
Well, but you said it better back to me. I like it.
Speaking of what we can do today, what do you think? What do you think are the biggest challenges that creatives face today, and how can they tackle those challenges?
Great question. Once again, and I feel like what's weird, and this is true, like in music, I think all things creative, like now, it's almost like in certain ways too easy to be creative. I think like, I guess what I mean, what I mean is like bands, for instance, like, and photography. I mean, there's so many nuances here, but like bands, you used to have to get in the garage, like work it out. You know what I mean? Like go play terrible shows and now it's like, everyone can record, everyone, like you can go and like make a record, put it on Spotify. Like you can do like so much, which is, and I have two sides to this entire idea because I love all of that. And I think that's one of the best things that's ever happened to creativity. And it continues to open up like cool new things and ways for us to like create and to iterate faster and to just learn and, you know, absorb, you know, creativity and express our own. But it's also so easy that I feel like it's just kind of made it, there's, I guess, like you don't experience the pain of like the process or like of making progress through pain. You know, it's like, oh yeah, I put a record out. Like I got a logo and I have a band now. I mean, I don't know really how to play live, but I have a band and I have like all, you know, like you have just put it all out there. And as far as the world can tell, you have a career and you kind of like, there's weird, like, it's just it's easy to do. Photography, like, you know, Instagram, like is amazing. I'm a huge fan of Instagram. At the same time, on the other side of the coin, it's like, it's really, I mean, dude, iPhone cameras are like insane now. Like, and I love that because I love taking pictures, but I can't truly go call myself a photographer. But that's kind of what's happening. You know, like there's like, it's really easy to put out great stuff. And like, so I wouldn't knock it because it's awesome. And people can be creative in ways they never could 10 years ago. But it's also, I think that it's a weird stumbling block too, because I think people are even convincing themselves, and I'm guilty of this to a degree. Like, it's easy to convince yourself that like you're a pro or that you're farther along in a career than you are maybe. And it's just kind of turned into this little bit of a murky, like, I don't know, like just a weird picture of like creatives in general. And I just wish there was more like that people had to go through a little bit more of the pain. You know, it's like touring, and it's like the band that like accidentally fell into like a record deal and was like, oh, we just started, but now we're touring in a bus. And, you know, they didn't have to go through the like, 15 passenger van and like just hating life for a little while to like feel that growth and like make that progress and like, oh, we're doing it. Like our hard work's paying off, so I think it just might be in certain ways too easy to be creative. As weird as that sounds, I'm like saying it out loud. I'm like, I hope that's clear. I just think more people should, I wish more creatives just had to kind of go through the ropes a little bit.
Yeah.
Yeah. I think sometimes it can be confusing for ourselves. Like, so
is it this easy?
Yeah. It's weird.
The reality of what I'm hearing is that there are so many tools out right now that make creating easier, which is inherently a very good thing.
Fantastic.
But it takes away from mastery of a certain craft.
Yeah, it's easy to lean on those tools, I guess. But someone that harnesses the tools and is like, gosh, I want to work my tail off and like learn how to be better. And these tools are super helpful in that. But they're like on that path of like, gosh, like I love this. It moves me. I want to like harness everything I can around it and just refine my craft. That's like a different attitude than like, sweet, I got an iPhone. Like, I'm going to be an influencer. And I'm just, like call myself a photographer. Like, that sounds like I'm ripping on people, and I hate that if it's coming across that way. But I just think, there's it's a mindset,
right?
And I think some of these tools can allow people to just lean on them as a crutch and not pursue that and have the mindset of like honing a craft,
right? So going back to the question, which is, what's one of the challenges that young people face today? You're saying that it's too easy.
I think, or that there's so many tools, it can be confusing and easy. Yeah, easy to just rely on the tools instead of actually like honing the craft. So and I'm guilty of this, by the way. Like, I have to force myself.
I think everybody is.
Yeah,
I think
much.
As things get easier, and
it's fun. It's like fun to just
pretend that you're something. And who says you're not in this age where you can only put out your best work and stuff.
Yeah.
So how do you counter that?
Yeah.
How do you, I don't know if it's a pursuit of authenticity, but what would you advise young creatives to do to not fall in this trap and to see a deeper form of creativity?
Fantastic. Yeah, I think it's just the cool thing, getting back to these tools and how easy, like, or how many opportunities there are to like try stuff. I think that's the benefit of it, is like, I would encourage people like, go use all this stuff that's out there. Use all like them. We live in an amazing time for creativity. So pursue and go try a bunch of things, like, and see what you like love, right? If it's photography, if it's music, whatever you're doing, like if it's videography, like cool. Like, oh, I'm not a photographer. I really like video work or like editing. Like, and then when you find that thing that really like moves you, then I would say like, cool, like find ways to then dig like deep into that, right? And like try to, and there again, mentors, like look up people that like are super successful in their field, or someone that's like doing cool things that inspire you, and try and see what they do, see what their process is, and like start to just take that deeper, I think, look into that thing or that creative, direction that like really moves you, and then just like pour your heart into it, and that will naturally include cool tools and, like use it all. But I think it's just, we get into like trouble when we're just kind of like, like I kind of do whatever, and this is cool, like that's part of it. Like I said, exploring and finding what moves you. But once you find it or have like a direction that you're like really starting to move in, then like just dig deep with it.
Dive deep. Don't settle for the surface, right?
Totally.
Okay.
Yeah.
what has been your process for maintaining motivation?
Oh man. Yeah, I think it's just, I mean, definitely balance. Like work-life balance is like the most difficult thing for me, like in the season I'm in. But the more that I like on a weekend, like making sure like I take the time to like check out a little bit, even if it's like half a day, whatever. Like there's always things coming up that like require my attention, but like having like family time every weekend that's just like, dude, let's go to a park, let's go whatever, like let's go have some fun. And having that time to like zoom out, like, and then also like every Sunday, then I'm like checking back in, getting my head wrapped around the week, like, and all of that again, it keeps coming back to organization for me, but only because that, like I said earlier, like getting my head in the right space, whether that's family and then back into work, having that like that balance helps my brain feel like refreshed and ready. And like then I have more ideas and I have, more of that going on. Otherwise, like I've seen myself burn out a lot of times. And that's like, I know that's just unhealthy on every level, especially creatively, like, so finding just those ways to like balance things or take breathers, if I need to take a walk for 10 minutes and just kind of recharge, get outside, like I think all of those really basic things like help me keep like sharp and keep like, oh, I feel fresh. Okay, let's keep going, So it's really, just kind of that basic work-life balance for me these days.
Well, I do have a couple fun questions at the end.
Sweet.
But before we get into those, I do want to hear, and I want to hear you talk more about what you've got going on right now with AVVAY.
Oh,
Why don't you tell
man.
everybody about that?
Man, it's, So I mentioned my friend John Howard earlier. He and I, again, have been friends for, like 11 or 12 years now. And he toured with the band Paramore for, 7 or 8 years. And he's a guitarist. All 4 of our founders are guitar players, which is hopefully a good thing. Probably not, but it's we'd be the most obnoxious band, if we ever tried to start a band together. But anyway, John called me one day. He was on tour and he's like, man, like I've been trying to produce, he was producing a record for their drummer during the tour, like trying to like record at every stop and, go find like cool spots to do recording and do like video content. He was working with like the record label, doing video content, photo shoots all along the way, like trying to like just make it happen in all these different cities across the US. And it ended up being like a total pain to try to do that. They ended up doing most of the record in like a hotel room every night. And it was just like super uninspiring. And he was just like, man, there's gotta be like a better way. And I think I want to like start this thing that's kind of like an Airbnb for creative spaces to do like creative things. And I'm like, cool, sounds awesome. I was like, no one's doing it. He's like, oh, there's some, some people are doing variations of it, but no one's like out there like doing this for the creatives and like actually owning it for the community. I'm like, oh man, I love this. Should we make a logo? Like that's where my head was at. I'm like, I have no idea how to build a website like on that level. So we made a logo and a Squarespace site, and it was like, I don't think we can just do this. Like, I've heard marketplaces are a little more difficult to build. So, fast forward, that was in like end of like 2015. And we started kind of like, we brought 2 more guys in that actually were web developers that they're actually both guitar players for the band Further Seems Forever, which is a band I like loved growing up. So it's like this really funny, like just again, weird pieces coming together. And it was turned into, long story short, over the years since then, it's turned into, we've created a marketplace for creatives of all types to book creative spaces by the hour. And it's very much like an Airbnb model, but you can come if you need to book for photo shoots, film shoots, you name it. Like these are everything from houses to pro studios that you can rent by the hour and do your stuff. So that's kind of what we built. And then over the last year, like as far as a new development, like last year or so, we've been working with so many agencies and directors and producers and production companies here in town that we've actually launched what's called AVVAY Concierge, which is literally location scouting. So we have an entire separate network of spaces now that is not available to the public on the public facing site. And we have some amazing, like really cool, like random spaces that you would just like, we scouted a prison. We got like dive bars, like all kinds of just like off the wall and really just cool, great normal spaces. So we have this private collection, and we're working with agencies and all these other creative teams to just basically, go deeper with them. Like they're shooting so much cool stuff, and we're just like, man, we want to do more. So we've gone to that deeper level of just, if we don't have it, then we'll go find it. And we're scouting new places like every day. Our team's out right now. I was like, oh, sorry, I have a podcast. You guys are on it. Yes. No, but it's been fun, man. It's we've been doing such a whole new level of just creative work that we've been getting to be a part of, and again, the collaborating thing, like we're getting to work with other creative teams, and it's just a whole new season for us that I'm really excited about. And we're working, yeah, I mean, your listeners might be psyched. Anyone in Nashville, I mean, you need directors, producers, we'd love to do more,
absolutely.
And we love the off the wall stuff. It's like, is there any way to find this? And we're like, go get it.
What a cool answer to a problem, though. I mean, that's a problem that I'm sure any creative faces, and I know we have a lot of different types of creatives listening right now. So if any of you need a creative space to shoot video, any cinematography, photography. I know you have sound booths for podcasters and studios for bands. Just check out AVVAY at...
AVVAY.com. That's AVVAY.com. Like away, but 2 V's, because, we could get a .com for it. So.
Yeah. All right, couple quick fun questions.
Yes.
Is there a parable or a children's tale that you relate with more than others, or what fictional character do you currently aspire to be?
Wow. That is a fun question, but it's still solid, man. You are like batting 1,000 on these questions. Okay. Well, man, I mean, this may sound cliche as well, but yeah, I mean, I'm a Christian. Like I would, of course, love my life to look as much like Jesus as possible. And I definitely fail at that every day, unfortunately. But yeah, I mean, that's the idea. I'm definitely a firm believer in, love everyone you come in contact with, equality, just be good to people, man.
Mm-hmm.
And I've seen that more and more, growing up, in Sunday school, I think it's one picture that you have of oh yeah, I need to do all these things, and I need to and it's, that to a degree, but more and more I'm just man, people just need to be loved and be treated as people. And we're all messed up. I just see that more and more, especially in business, it's everyone and creatives, like we said, earlier, we all have egos, and, they're all battling some weird, heaviness, just, or self-doubt or whatever. And the more that I just interact with people, I'm let's just cut the crap a little bit. We all kind of suck, and we're all awesome. So let's just be cool to each other. And so, that's, but I'd love to look a lot more like Jesus, honestly.
Yeah. I think a lot of us would.
Yeah, man.
He was the parable machine.
Yeah. I love that.
I don't know if that's blasphemy
Parable machine
or sacrilege, but I
it's definitely our new band.
There it is.
Parable machine.
Yep. What skill do you wish that you were proficient at, and why?
Well, getting back to our conversation about how easy it is to be a photographer, I honestly would love to get legitimately, talk about, finding something that I definitely love and would love to pursue once I have time at some point in my life. I do not call myself one now, but love photography. And, you've been a designer a lot of your life, working with photography and the power of it. And just, composition, everything about it is just so cool. And I would love to have more time to actually get more serious gear, spend more time with people that I respect here in town. There's so many amazing photographers in Nashville. So I'd love to just spend a day shooting around town with a few people I love, just to pick questions,
pick their brains,
ask them questions. Yeah. So I would love to be a better photographer.
Yeah. Would you get into film?
I would love that. I do. I've done a little bit of film, just for random commercials that I had to make happen. And I definitely love it. It's also super daunting in a different way. Like the editing and like the back end, like in post of a video is super daunting to me, but I love video.
I've never had the opportunity to work in film and even like film photography.
Yeah.
But I have this super romantic relationship with the idea of having
I
this
feel like we all have like that one thing. You're like, I wish.
It's like this dark room in your house, and you go back there, and it's just the red light, and
dude,
swishing the print in the water and seeing what comes out.
Mad scientist.
Oh, I know.
Yeah, dude. One day we're gonna start a photography company, and we're gonna kill it.
It's going to be great. We're going to have a band. We're going to have a photography studio.
Parallel machine's going to be blowing up with like singles all over the radio.
With only songs based on parables. That's it. That's it. That's the whole band.
Dude. Just literally slam my face into the microphone right now.
All right. Last question.
Yep.
Is there anything that you wish I would have asked you?
Oh, man. I don't know, man. I'm trying to think if there was... I feel like there was something we started to touch. Oh, I would say this one doesn't have to be another huge conversation, but I did we didn't really talk about imposter syndrome. We touched on it a little bit.
Yeah.
I would just totally let everyone know that that's very real. And believe it or not, I think every single person, definitely every creative, battles that.
Oh, yeah.
And I battle that so much. And
how do you battle that? This is important. Let's get into this.
All
this
right.
is important.
Let's just do another hour or so. No, I don't know. I think I've always felt like whether it was music, like I never learned like a ton of theory in music. Like I feel like would definitely call myself like a proficient guitar player, and I know that mentally. But you're always kind of like like I don't know if I'm legit. Like there's kind of like this level of. And I think part of it's my journey, like of like moving into these different seasons and feeling like, yeah, I'm a designer and I got my associate's degree in 2013, whatever, like, none of that really helped me. Like just doing it helped me learn. But I always am like, man, I wonder if I should have like had more training. I've just kind of learned it, And I think a lot of us are probably, I don't know if that was your story, but like, you just learn it. You like dive in, you figure it out. Like, but I think there's a level of all of that. And now like, being in a startup, I'm like, I'm a founder of a company. Like, I don't really, it's half like feeling like you don't deserve it, I think. If it's something that's maybe going well and you're like, gosh, like someone's going to find out that I'm not qualified. Like, or you just feel that even if you're not like, necessarily like killing it in an area, but it's something you love and you're like, I don't know, like there's no way I can be like legit in this because there's so-and-so or X, Y, and Z doesn't add up. So I'm not legit. Like, that's just like, I don't know. I would love your thoughts on it because.
Well, what do you do in response to those things?
I think again, like I feel like this is a theme, but like you just kind of keep going. Like, because you either like, well, if like you really believe that, then quit. Right. Like, but none of us are going to quit because I don't think we actually believe it. I think we just like, all you can do is like, hey, just keep going and on the path you're on. Cause I think it's just a lie in your head anyway. But someone at another company recently challenged me. We were talking about this actually. And he was like, man, like honestly, any of the times in my life where I didn't feel that, I was in like the worst place, like in like the most safe, wasn't challenging myself. Like you feel that because you're like usually pushing yourself. So if you're like feeling that like insecurity, it's probably because you're like pushing the envelope for your own skills or your own like career, whatever. And I was like, he said that and I was like, man, that helps me a lot. So I've been just remembering that. And if I'm feeling that lately and just like, sometimes it's like you need to change something. Like maybe something is fully out of your wheelhouse and it's like, ugh, but that'll usually show itself to be pretty clear. Otherwise, I'm like, dude, if you feel that, it's probably because you're right where you're supposed to be and you're feeling uncomfortable because you're not letting yourself settle for, being in like a safe place.
Yeah.
So I would just encourage people to, that's what I'm learning as we speak. Like I'm every day constantly battling this, but I have to just keep reminding myself that. It's like, well.
Yeah, but that's actionable right there. You know, like being able to recognize, you know what, I don't feel comfortable in this situation.
Totally.
But then taking that thought, which If you go one way, like you said, it's like, oh, I'm not going to do it, or I'm going to procrastinate it and I'm not going to do it for a long time. I know it's something I want to do, but I'm not ready. I'm not ready.
Totally.
But instead saying, you know what? No, this is the next step.
Yep.
So that when this comes up again, I can answer with, no, I can do it.
Totally, man.
So you can make it empowering. But I don't want to talk too much on it.
The struggle is real.
It is. I don't want to talk too much on it because I'm much more fascinated with what you have to say.
Oh, man. But you can relate. I just need to know that you can relate,
I can
Joel.
relate.
Tell me I'm not alone.
You're not. You're definitely not. It's something that it doesn't matter what creative thing I've ever been a part of, I have experienced in one form or another.
Yeah.
Whether it's design or whether it's music or whether it's writing or whether it's photography or whatever it is, it doesn't matter.
As a husband or anything. I feel like everything in life is like...
That was probably my biggest imposter syndrome moment. Was going into getting married.
Yep.
I was like, man, I'm a catch. Like I'm
awesome.
I'm a good person. Like I'm not,
Turns out we're selfish pieces of crap.
Yeah. I think it was like a month and a half in. I was like, oh my gosh, I'm a dirtbag.
It's it's like just that constant realization. You're like, man, I'm not as cool as I thought I was when I was 20.
Right.
Which is healthy. I think overall, this is all healthy.
Yeah.
Again, whether it's because you're pushing self forward or you're just having more self-awareness of I'm not the coolest thing in the world, and that is the healthiest thing I can remember.
Right.
And
then as long as the focus becomes somewhat positive and you're like, well, no, okay, instead of thinking I need to be a finished product, instead of thinking that I am the coolest person, and then realizing I'm not, then making a push to convince yourself that, no, just get better.
Totally.
Get better slowly.
All you can do,
every single day.
And I'd so much rather be there than be like, the 20-year-old, and we all thought we knew everything.
I'm done.
I'm like, man, I'm so glad to be kind of done with that and know that I know nothing. And now we just kind of get to keep learning and chill out a little bit.
But it's really reassuring to me to hear you say that.
Oh, dude. Yeah. I feel like every time this topic comes up, I'm like, yes, there's more of us.
But no, I mean, I think everybody goes through this in one form or another. And I think you can see the people who have gone through this that you meet, and then the people who haven't, and you're just kind of like sitting and waiting and be like, just wait,
that are like high strung, I feel like, and that are just like...
You just haven't gone through this realization.
Stereotypical, like the hustle.
Yes.
You're like, okay. Like, well, not that the hustle isn't real.
No, it is.
That phrase is just so funny. But I think the people, you get kind of past that. And I'm sure literally in 20 years, we're going to look back at this podcast and be like, what were we talking about? Like, we thought we knew things. We didn't. That's just like time. So anyway, it's good though. It's good to be reminded that I'm not alone.
No, creatives, you're not alone.
Yes.
Just keep going for it.
More of us out there.
Well, Nick, thanks so much for coming on.
Dude, thank you.
It's been an absolute pleasure to have you on.
Heck yeah.
Tons and tons of value in what you had to say. So,
man, thank you.
I just want to remind everybody to check out AVVAY and their collaboration spaces, their creative spaces that are Airbnb style, pay by the hour for whatever you're working on. So AVVAY.com.
Got it.
And thanks so much for being on the show.
Heck yeah, man. Thanks for having me.
Yeah. I want to thank Nick again for being on the show, and I hope he's encouraged you to keep taking steps forward, no matter where you are in your creative journey. Make sure to subscribe to our show so you don't miss future episodes, and help us build a healthy and collaborative community of creators by sharing this with someone who could use some words of inspiration today. And lastly, I want to thank our team here at Soundstripe for making the show possible. If you don't know who we are, Soundstripe is a subscription-based music licensing company that provides unlimited music to subscribers for all video and creative needs. If you need music for your podcasts, YouTube channel, vlog, radio show, film, anything, go to soundstripe.com to learn more about our amazing library of music and sound effects. We also create and curate a ton of inspirational and educational material that's featured on our blog and our social channels. With everything we do, our mission is to keep creatives creating. So once again, thank you all for joining us this week. I hope you check back in with us again. And remember, no matter what, keep creating.